What if your last words were the wrong words? An argument, a misunderstanding, or worse, just silence. Years of silence. For most of us, it's a nightmare we pray never comes true, a ghost of regret that lives in the back of our minds. But for Zayn, Malik and Liam Payne, this nightmare became a reality, played out on a global stage. Theirs was a brotherhood forged in the fire of global fame. Two boys against the entire world. They were inseparable, unbreakable, until they weren't. A bond like that doesn't just break. It shatters into a million pieces. And what happens when you're left holding those pieces, after it's already too late to put them back together? This isn't just the story of a celebrity feud, full of headlines and drama. It's the story of a final message. A devastating confession, written in the shadow of tragedy, that revealed the heartbreaking truth of what was lost, right at the very end. Chapter 1. The Unbreakable Brotherhood. In 2010, the world watched 5 strangers become a supernova. One Direction wasn't just a band. It was a cultural reset, a whirlwind of sound, youth, and chaotic energy. But inside that storm, something quieter was forming. A unique gravity. It was the pull between the band's two opposite poles. On one side, you had Liam Payne, the anchor. He was the one who had auditioned for the X Factor before, the one who seemed to understand the assignment from day one. The press and the band themselves called him Daddy Direction, and it wasn't just a nickname. He was the sensible one, the rock who kept the train on the tracks. He was the steady ground in a world that was constantly shifting beneath their feet. And on the other side, Zayn Malik, the artist, the mystery, the boy with a voice that held a universe of soul, but whose eyes held a deep reluctance for the spotlight he found himself in. He was the quiet one, the one sketching in a notebook while chaos erupted around him. He was the soaring kite, beautiful and breathtaking, but always threatening to be swept away by the wind. For years, they held each other's string. Their dynamic was the silent engine of the group. Forget what the cameras were staged to capture. The truth was in the moments in between. The shared glances during interviews when a silly question was asked. The private jokes whispered on stage between songs. The silent support. Fans saw it immediately. They called them Zium, recognizing a bond that felt different, deeper. It wasn't the boisterous, loud friendship of the others. It was a quiet harbor. Years later, looking back through the prism of grief, Zayn would remember it with an aching clarity. He wrote of being a scared 17-year-old kid, missing home, and how Liam would always be there with a positive outlook and a reassuring smile, letting him know he was loved. This wasn't for the show. This was real. This was the foundation. You see, in a world that made no sense, a world of screaming fans and non-stop travel, Liam was the one who did. He was the one who understood the mechanics of the music, the one who could steady the ship. Zayn himself admitted it. When it came to the music, Liam, you were the most qualified in every sense. Liam provided the structure that the free-spirited Zayn needed to feel safe. And in return, Zayn gave Liam a space to be vulnerable, a person who understood the pressure without needing to talk about it. He was the brother who made sure everyone else was okay. But who was making sure he was okay? That's a question no one thought to ask back then. They were a perfect balance on a stage that demanded absolute perfection. A 5-part machine conquering the world. But no machine can run at that intensity forever. And deep beneath the surface, under the weight of it all, the first hairline fractures were beginning to show. They were brothers. And sometimes, even the strongest brothers break. Chapter 2. The Great Fracture. March 2015. The crack became a canyon. The news broke while the band was on a world tour. Zayn was gone. The official statement was clean corporate. He wanted to be a normal 22-year-old. But the reality was messy and brutal. The departure came on the heels of intense media scrutiny, photos surfacing that fueled tabloid rumors. For Zayn, it was the final straw in a life he felt he could no longer control. But for the 4 boys left behind, it felt like a sudden, shocking abandonment. For Liam, it was a personal body blow. The anchor had just watched a part of his ship get ripped away in the middle of a storm. The exit was sudden. There was no long goodbye. Liam later confessed he hadn't heard from Zayn for a long time after he left. The silence was deafening. The years that followed were a Cold War fought in public. Zayn launched a massive, critically acclaimed solo career. In early interviews, he made comments about the band's music, calling it generic, something he wouldn't listen to. Each word was a fresh cut. For fans, and likely for the band, it felt like he was erasing their shared history, dismissing the very thing that had made him. The distance grew wider with every interview, with every award show where they were present but pointedly separate. The Brotherhood seemed buried under layers of pride, hurt, and misunderstanding. Then came the explosion. In a 2022 podcast, years after the split, Liam opened up. And he was raw. He was unfiltered. He spoke of backstage arguments, of tensions, of family issues, and his complicated feelings. He was no longer the polished, daddy direction. He was a man who was publicly struggling with his own demons, and his words came out jagged and sharp. And the world heard only one thing: a feud. The narrative was set in stone. Liam Payne and Zayn Malik hated each other. But this is where the story takes a turn. Because everyone missed the real message. Everyone focused on the anger, but they missed the pain beneath it. Liam said something that, on the surface, sounded like an attack. But if you listen closely, with the benefit of hindsight, it was actually a confession. He said, "There are many reasons why I dislike Zayn. And there are many reasons why I'll always be on his side." That wasn't hate. That was the messy, complicated, unconditional love of a brother. It was the sound of profound hurt. It was a sentence at war with itself. The first half was a defense mechanism, a shield built up after years of feeling abandoned. The second half was the truth. It was a signal, a desperate admission that the bond was still there, drowning in conflict but not yet dead. Liam's words set the world on fire. But buried in the ashes was a secret message for Zayn. A message of fierce, protective loyalty, hidden inside a shell of anger. A message Zayn wouldn't understand, until it was too late. Chapter 3: The Silence of a Brother. October 16, 2024. A Tuesday. The news broke like a sonic boom. A headline that felt impossible to read, a cruel twist of fate. Liam Payne was dead. At just 31 years old, he had fallen from a third-floor hotel balcony in Buenos Aires. The world stopped spinning. This wasn't just the loss of a pop star. This was the loss of a man who had been bravely, publicly fighting his demons. He had spoken with raw honesty about his struggles with mental health, addiction, and the crushing pressures of fame. He had become a father, and his love for his son Bear was a constant, bright light in his life. He was a man in the middle of his fight. And now, he was gone. Outside the hotel, fans gathered. They lit candles. They sang the songs of their youth, their voices cracking with disbelief. They mourned the man who was the soundtrack to them growing up. Suddenly, the old battle lines, the fandom wars, the years of silence, none of it mattered. It was all shattered by a single unified cry of grief. The band, the 4 remaining members, released a joint statement. It was the reunion no one ever wanted, a brotherhood forced back together by an unbearable loss. Tributes flooded the internet. Each was a raw expression of shock and a testament to the man Liam was behind the scenes. Harry Styles, ever the voice of kindness, called him warm, supportive, and incredibly loving. Louis Tomlinson, his childhood friend, the one who knew him before it all began, called Liam the most vital part of One Direction, and made a solemn promise to be there for his son. Niall Horan, the cheerful heart of the band, wrote about their last hug just weeks before, the finality of it now a heartbreaking realization. "I sadly didn't know that after saying goodbye and hugging him that evening, I would be saying goodbye forever." The world heard from Harry, from Louis, from Neil. But as the hours turned into a day, one voice remained silent. The internet became a waiting room. Every refresh of the page, every new notification, brought a collective holding of breath. The silence from Zayn wasn't just an absence of words. It was a deafening roar of history, conflict, and a decade of unspoken love. And everyone asked the same terrifying question: what could he possibly say now? Chapter 4: The Last Confession. And then it came. It wasn't a simple rest in peace. It wasn't a generic statement from a publicist. It was a letter to the world, and a whisper to his lost brother. It wasn't just a tribute. It was a confession. A eulogy for a friendship left tragically unfinished. He began, "Liam, I have found myself talking out loud to you, hoping you can hear me." This is the language of pure, unprocessed grief. Of a conversation that death interrupted, but the heart refuses to end. It's a devastating admission of regret, of all the words left unsaid now being spoken into the void. He continued, "I can't help but think selfishly that there were so many more conversations for us to have in our lives." He looked back on their conflicts, not with anger or bitterness, but with a tragic new understanding. The very things that once drove them apart were now seen in a different light. "Even though you were younger than me, you were always more sensible than me. You were headstrong, opinionated. Even though we butted heads because of this a few times, I always secretly respected you for it." In this, Zayn admits a tragic paradox of so many broken friendships. We often resent the qualities in others that we secretly admire or wish we had ourselves. The arguments weren't about hate, they were about two strong personalities colliding. And then the final gut-wrenching truth was laid bare. The answer to every question. The definitive statement that rewrote years of tabloid narrative in a single sentence. "I lost a brother when you left us," Zayn wrote, "and can't explain to you what I'd give to just give you a hug one last time and say goodbye to you properly, and tell you that I loved and respected you dearly." The feud was a ghost. A phantom created by fame, pressure, and pride. The love was the only thing that was ever real. After years of public perception, of fracture and feuding, Zayn reclaimed their story. It wasn't a business partnership that ended. It wasn't a rivalry. It was a brotherhood that was broken, and now, permanently lost. Chapter 5. An Unfinished Conversation. The story of Zayn and Liam is a brutal lesson in the cost of fame, pride, and silence. For years, the world saw fracture. But death, in its final cruel act, stripped all of that away, and left only the truth. Zayn's final message wasn't just for Liam. It's a desperate plea to all of us. Mend the fence. Make the call. Say the words. Because one day, the silence becomes permanent. The tragedy here is not just that Liam is gone. The tragedy, the one that haunts so many of us in our own lives, is the chasm of unspoken words he left behind. Liam's death was a devastating loss, but it was also a final poignant gift. It silenced the noise and reminded us of what truly mattered. In the beginning, and in the end, they were just boys who became brothers. And that was everything. Their story is a powerful reminder to cherish the people who knew you before the world did. We all have a friendship that shaped us, one that we hold close, maybe even one that's grown quiet over the years. We'd be honored if you shared a memory in the comments about a friendship that changed your life. Sometimes, telling these stories is how we keep that love from fading away. For more stories that reveal the heart behind the headlines, make sure to subscribe and share this story with a friend you cherish. A simple act can be a reminder of a bond that truly matters. We'll see you in the next story.